Well, hey everybody, this is Mr. G. Sorry I can't be with you today. I just want to make sure that I'm being healthy and well and you're safe. So we're going to go to module Q3 4.4. We're going to talk about the history of Christianity. So go ahead and find this one, scroll down, and you're going to click on the video, and that's where you're going to get the information. And then you're going to just pretty much complete this module. Okay, so the history of Christianity and the birth of it during the Roman Empire happens actually just at the same time all this stuff is going on within the transition between the Republic and the Empire. And the church will grow during that time of Nero and his crazy reign. So it's around the year 1 all the way up to the year 60, 72 that the church is really growing. Let's go ahead and back up a little bit and talk about the history of Judaism real quick and how it relates to other empires of the world. And I know one thing you learned last year in 6th grade was the history of religions. And specifically, we're going to want to focus on the one guy that you see in the top right corner there named Abraham. So there are 3 monotheistic religions that stem from this patriarch named Abraham. Abraham has many sons. Has many sons as father Abraham. So that's supposed to be that guy. And I'm sure you remember, it's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So after his convictions, Moses writes down the law. And after Moses writes down the law, it gets transferred into the people group of Israel underneath the reign of King David and King Solomon. So the reign of King Solomon and King David happened around the year 1000. And then after that, eventually Israel will have a civil war and it will split north and south. Israel will eventually get defeated by the mighty Assyrians, and then the southern part of Judah will eventually get defeated or will eventually be absorbed and taken over by the Babylonians. They're the Jews of Judea. That's where the term comes from, Jewish people from Judea. They get transferred to Babylon, and it's underneath the Persians, with the Persians beat up the Babylonians, that the Persians allow them to come back to Israel. Then eventually, as you can see there, but at point E, D and E there, eventually the Greeks underneath Alexander the Great will be absorbed into his empire. But then by event E, Maccabee Revolt, that's the celebration of Hanukkah, they get their freedom. And then that's a kind of short-lived thing, almost about 100 years. And then underneath that guy, Pompey Magnus, the Romans are eventually going to take them over and absorb the Judea region into the Roman Empire. So the people of Judea went from being free in Galilee, and the Jews living there went from being free and autonomous to being taken over. So they got their freedom from the Greeks, and now they're taken over by the Romans. And now they start to look for this character that they've prophesied about since the book of Isaiah and Daniel. They're looking for a Messiah figure. And there was people before this guy named Jesus, and there would be people after the guy named Jesus that claimed to be the Messiah, or the Christos, or that's where we get our word Christ. It's a title, it means anointed one of God. There was this belief that some other people were this Messiah figure. But the idea of Jesus and his concept definitely would last throughout history. And so this person, of course, according to the Bible, was born underneath the reign of Caesar Augustus, as you can see there at the bottom. That verse talks about that. And eventually grows up and he has this ministry of where he's supposed, according to his believers, he was doing these miraculous things, healing people, and he was also talking about a message of saving one from sin, so you don't want to hurt people. So creating a kingdom within the hearts of men. That was the kind of concept. Eventually, though, his ideas became controversial amongst other Jewish people, and it was going to lead to some kind of eternal fight. And eventually, the believers of Jesus will which were Jewish, break away from the other Jewish people, and now you have another religion of Abraham, the second monotheistic religion of Abraham. So eventually, there was such a ruckus around Jesus that the Romans found it necessary to have this guy executed because seemed like there was going to be a riot, and so it just seemed easier to get rid of this guy, and so the Romans would have him crucified. But according to his followers, after he died, and this is also not just written in the Bible, Tacitus, the Roman historian, wrote about this. Suetonius wrote about this. These are all Roman historians. A Jewish historian by the name of Josephus talked about this as well. After he was crucified, that's what happened. But according to his followers and those holy books, of the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the New Testament, he said he rose again from the dead. Now, that's a point of faith, and Anyway, that's what they say happened, and that thus the second religion of Abraham, is formed with these Jewish believers that Jesus is the Messiah. It was only 500 people, but by the time of the 300s, that religion will grow from 10 million to 20 million. And so it was not really well liked initially in the Roman Empire. So it's underneath Nero that the Christians become persecuted. He blamed them for the fire of Rome, and as a result of that, the waves of persecution throughout the Roman Empire begin from around 66 all the way up to the year roughly 310. The persecution of Christians begin. And it's on and off. It's not a constant thing. Some emperors were worse than others. But it's underneath that guy, as you can see at the bottom there, next to Nero, Constantine, who at the Battle of Milvian Bridge, he heard this sign, heard this voice in the sky, and he saw the sign in the sky that said, "In this sign, conquer." And it was the symbol of Christ, supposedly according to him. And he wins the battle, and he converts to Christianity. He makes it a legal religion. He doesn't make it the only religion, and eventually it becomes the only religion way after him, almost about 100 years after Constantine. But Constantine was the first Christian emperor according to history. So Christianity goes from being this small religion to being the religion of choice within the Roman Empire by the 300s. That's it. Make sure you have those notes transferred into your notes. Be ready for the open note test coming up soon. Have a good day.